I'm a little distracted. I'm watching the Indianapolis scene from the Indianapolis speech from Jaws right now. Um, it's been said about the Velvet Underground that they only sold 30,000 albums, but every single one of those people formed a band. My theory about Joe Rogan is that Joe Rogan has created more bad comedians than the Velvet Underground has created bands. The most notable example would be Brendan Schwab. Brendan is famous for his catchphrase. Dicey, dicey! Dicey, dicey! He's also famous for being the worst comedian around today. If you go on the YouTube, you'll find all manner of people making fun of him. He's kind of like the Norm Macdonald of not being funny. He's so unfunny, in fact, that another comedian roasted him, and he put that comedian in a sleeper hold. Dicey, dicey! Dicey, dicey! Another example of a ex-MMA fighter turned comedian would be Jason Mayhem Miller. Jason Mayhem Miller's list of credits include burglary, domestic battery, 2 felony counts of corporal injury to a spouse, felony domestic violence, assault and battery for breaking a guy's ribs in a bar, a 5-hour standoff with police, and obviously some jail time. Dicey, dicey! Here's a quote from Mr. Mayhem Miller. Comedy is an art form very similar to jiu-jitsu. It's akin to interpretive dance with your mouth. It's a skill that I crafted similarly to jiu-jitsu by verbally grappling with the best comedians. If you are with Joe Rogan enough, you better get funny. First of all, nobody thinks Joe Rogan is funny. I've never met a comic who thought of Joe Rogan as anything other than the butt of a joke. The people who find him, who use him as an influence, they're even embarrassed to admit that. But they do exist. They tend to be ex-cage fighters, ex-wrestlers, ex-husbands who stand on stage and rant about trans women in sports or how much they hate women's sports. And the audience just stares at them like they're waiting for a light to change. As for comedy being an interpretive dance that you do with your mouth, obviously, Mr. Mayhem Miller heard somebody using fighting as a metaphor for comedy and thought that he took it literally. Comedy is a form of writing. It's nothing like fighting. I've never gone to a writing workshop and kneed a guy in the face in order to write better jokes. Here's another example of a ex-cage fighter inspired to go into comedy by Joe Rogan. His name's Stephen Bonner. Stephen Bonner attacked a heckler. He got him into a wrist lock and was heard shouting, "Who sucks now?" And another example of an ex-cage fighter turned comedian, inspired to go into comedy by Joe Rogan, would be the guy that attacked me in a parking lot last week. He broke my glasses. He got some blood on my notebook. I don't know if you can see this. I bleed for this comedy shit. I do. I hurt his feelings. He screwed over me and a couple other comics. And so I called him on it. And I told him that he wasn't funny. And his response was to follow me out into a parking lot and sucker punched me, knocked me on my ass. My butt still hurts. Swole my lip up. Look, I'm not saying all ex-MMA fighters are a war machine or anything like that. I know one who's a pretty nice guy. His name's Dave. But I gotta be honest with you, man. Joe Rogan has brought out a lot of thugs into this business. A lot of thugs that aren't very funny. They steal spots from hardworking comics. And if anyone, they rip people off. And if anyone objects to it, these mostly right-wing thugs will threaten people with violence and act on it sometimes. Most of the time. I can't help but think this thought. Comedians are trained to talk shit. Cage fighters are trained to kick people in the head. To me, that combination seems kind of,
Dicey, dicey! Dicey, dicey! Dicey, dicey! Dicey, dicey!